Before we begin, I want you to think about someone you lost. Not to death, but to distance. Someone who walked away while you were still waiting. If you believe in second chances, in healing, and in stories that touch the heart, make sure you subscribe and stay with this channel, because today's story might remind you that sometimes the past doesn't disappear. Sometimes it comes back and knocks. I was 6 years old when my father left. We lived in a small apartment and it wasn't much. Peeling paint on the walls, old carpet that never quite looked clean, and a heater that made clicking noises every winter night. But to me, it was home. It was where my dad used to carry me on his shoulders and pretend I was tall enough to touch the ceiling. The day he left didn't feel dramatic. There was no screaming, no broken plates, no loud goodbye. I was sitting on the living room floor, building a bright orange racetrack out of plastic pieces. I had been waiting all morning for him to help me finish it. He promised we'd race the cars together after lunch. He stood near the door, wearing his brown jacket. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Just out for a while," he said. A while. That word would stretch longer than my childhood. He didn't hug me. He didn't kneel down. He didn't say, "I love you." He opened the door, stepped outside, and closed it behind him. The click was soft, but it echoed inside me for 20 years. At first I wasn't scared. I truly believed he would come back before dinner. Every time headlights flashed across the living room wall, I ran to the window. Every car slowing down made my heart race. Maybe that's him. It never was. Dinner came. His chair stayed empty. The next morning, his shoes were gone. A week later, his clothes disappeared from the closet. My mom stopped setting aside a plate for him at dinner. Eventually, she stopped saying his name, and I stopped asking. But silence doesn't mean healing. It just means the pain has found somewhere to hide. As a child, you don't understand job loss, financial stress, or pride. You don't understand adult shame. You only understand absence. And when someone leaves, you search for reasons. Maybe I talked too much. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe he didn't love me. Kids don't blame the parent. They blame themselves. At school, Father's Day felt like punishment. Other kids made colorful cards and talked about fishing trips and baseball games. I would pretend I forgot. When teachers asked about my dad, I'd shrug and say, "He's not around." I said it casually. But every time I said it, something inside me cracked. At night, I could hear my mom crying in her bedroom. She thought I was asleep. The walls were thin. Her sobs were quiet but steady. She started working 2 jobs. Mornings at a diner, evenings cleaning offices downtown. She left before I woke up and came home exhausted. Her hands became rough. Dark circles formed under her eyes. But she never complained. And she never spoke badly about him. That silence was heavier than anger. As I grew older, confusion turned into resentment. By 13, I stopped waiting at the window. I stopped imagining headlights belonged to him. Instead, I told myself I didn't care. I learned how to cook simple meals. I learned how to fix broken cabinet doors. I carried groceries without being asked. I became the man of the house before I even understood what that meant. But inside, I was still a boy who wanted his dad in the audience at a school event. When I turned 16, I got a part-time job at a hardware store. I told myself it was about independence, but it was really about proving something. Look at me. I'm strong. You were wrong to leave. Anger became my fuel. It pushed me through high school, through college applications, through long nights studying while my friends slept. But anger is heavy. It follows you into adulthood. In my early 20s, I struggled with relationships. Every time someone got too close, I pulled away. I told myself I valued freedom. The truth? I was terrified of becoming him. What if leaving was in my blood? What if I hurt someone the way he hurt us? By 26, I had my own apartment, a stable job, and what looked like a good life. On the outside, I seemed confident, responsible. On the inside, I was still that 6-year-old boy staring at a door. One evening, while having dinner with my mom, she surprised me. "Your dad wasn't always a bad man," she said softly. It was the first time she mentioned him in years. She told me he had lost his job before he left. The company shut down unexpectedly. Bills piled up. Debt collectors called daily. He felt like he was failing us. Instead of facing it, he ran, she said. Sometimes people leave because they don't know how to stay. Her words stayed with me. A few weeks later, on a cold October evening, I was home alone heating leftovers. The TV was playing softly in the background. Then I heard it. 3 slow knocks. Not loud, not aggressive, just steady. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my breath caught in my throat. There he was, older, thinner, gray in his hair, lines on his face, but his eyes were the same as mine. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. "Hi," he said, his voice trembling. "I know I don't deserve to be here." My hands started shaking. 20 years of silence stood between us. "Why now?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "I got sick earlier this year. Doctors thought it might be serious. I realized I might die without ever apologizing." Anger rushed through me. "So it took you thinking you were dying to remember you had a son?" His eyes filled with tears. "I remembered every day," he whispered. Part of me wanted to slam the door, but another part, the child who had waited at that window, needed answers. So I stepped aside. We sat at my kitchen table like strangers. He told me he moved to another state after leaving, worked construction, lived in small apartments. Every year that passed made it harder to come back. "Shame grows," he said quietly. "It doesn't shrink." Then he pulled out a worn photograph from his wallet. It was me at 6 years old, holding that unfinished racetrack. "I carried this every day," he said. My chest tightened. For 20 years, I believed I was forgotten. But I wasn't forgotten. I was avoided. "Why didn't you call?" I asked. "Because I was afraid you'd hate me." "I did," I said honestly. He nodded. I hated myself too. There was no dramatic hug. No instant forgiveness. Just 2 broken men sitting in silence, surrounded by lost time. After that night, we started slowly. Coffee once a week. Short conversations. Long pauses. He didn't try to act like nothing happened. He didn't demand to be called dad. He simply showed up. Again and again, consistency began to rebuild what apologies couldn't. Some days I still felt angry. Some days I ignored his calls. But slowly, the anger that had defined me for years began to feel heavier than the pain itself. One evening, after dinner, he stood near my door, getting ready to leave. He hesitated before opening it. "I don't expect full forgiveness," he said. "I just want a chance to know the man you became." For the first time, I saw him not as the giant figure from my childhood, but as a flawed human being. For 20 years, I carried the pain of being abandoned, but he carried the guilt of abandoning. We were both prisoners of the same moment, the sound of that door closing. Forgiveness didn't erase the past. It didn't give me back birthdays or school plays, but it freed me from carrying the weight of that day. So as he stepped outside, I said something I never thought I would say again. "I'll see you next week, Dad." His shoulders shook slightly. He nodded, unable to speak. And this time, when the door closed, it didn't echo. Because this time, he was coming back. We can't rewrite childhood. We can't erase absence. But we can decide what to do with it. Sometimes healing isn't about forgetting. Sometimes it's about opening the door, even when your hands are shaking. And if this story touched you in any way, if it reminded you of someone, or gave you hope, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Because you never know who might be waiting for their own knock on the door.